In this video, I'm going to show you how to use modifiers, which are a really useful way to control the shape of your model. So here I have our basic cube, and to add a modifier to it, I will click on this wrench here, and then under Add Modifier, I'll find the one I want. There's tons of them. For modeling, these ones are usually the most useful. So first I'll show you subdivision surface. This is one I use all the time. And what it does is it takes the original model and subdivides it, just like in the modeling tutorial. And I can change the number of subdivisions here. In our case, we want to mostly be using this viewport one. You can do 2 or 3 iterations, but I wouldn't normally do much more than that. It can really start to slow down your computer, depending on what you're trying to do. I can also do simple, which doesn't smooth it down at all, but it actually does add subdivisions, which you might want to use for later. But for things like modeling organic shapes, this is super useful. I can go into my modeling tab, and you can see I still have the original geometry of that cube. This modifier is just doing a second step where it kind of creates this smoothed down spherical shape out of it. And if I want to change this shape, I could grab and move planes, and you can see it moves that geometry to kind of fit inside of my box. And if I extrude new geometry out, you can see how that interior geometry starts changing. So this is actually how I would start modeling almost any character, if it's a human or a dinosaur or whatever. I would extrude the basic shape of it out like that, and then maybe sculpt it or do other things to it later. You can do things like add edge loops. So add one there to add more details, right? And then I can scale this in and pull it in. Alt-A. I can select this edge loop with Alt-Shift-Click. Scale it in, and so on. Yeah, so it's a really great tool for making some simple shapes. Another useful one of these is called mirror. So this will let us duplicate our mesh across an axis, mirror it across the axis. So I will take this just so you can see what it does and move it off to one side. And then I'll add the mirror modifier like that. And so now you can see I have 2 copies of exactly the same object on either side. And as I adjust one, it adjusts the other automatically. So for any kind of object or character with symmetry, this is super useful. I can even connect these 2 sides together. You can see with this subdivision surface modifier on, this is kind of closed off. I can actually just delete this face with the X key and then select delete faces. And now I have this opening here. And if I select this outer edge, I can grab it and move it into place. You can see if I wanted to do this, really do this right and have these meet perfectly, I'd have to be extremely careful. But there's a feature of the mirror modifier that lets us just snap these together. And that is called clipping. So with merge and clipping on, clipping will prevent vertices from crossing the line that it's mirroring on, and merge automatically merges vertices that are close together. Just like that. So you can see how right away this becomes a really handy tool for building symmetrical characters, ships, other kinds of objects. Another thing, you can see I've actually stacked these 2 modifiers on top of each other. So the order of these actually matters. The way this works now, first it creates a subdivided mesh underneath the mesh I already have, and then it mirrors it. And you can see the result of that is that right now there's this hard edge here. If I change the order of these, which I can do using these arrow keys here, these arrow buttons here, excuse me, if I move the mirror up so that it happens before subdivision, you can see it's a much smoother connection there. So, and I can also hide one of these so you can kind of see what's going on. So I'll just sort of, let's see here. How do I do that now? There we go. Okay. So this button here hides this subdivision effect. So you can see the mirror is happening first, and then the subdivision on top of it. Eventually, if I want to sculpt this, sculpting doesn't work very well with these modifiers. So what you have to do is you have to apply these, which you can't do in modeling mode. You have to go back up to layout. You want to apply them in the order that they're actually in. So I want to start because my because my mirror modifier is first, I'll apply that first. And what you'll see if I go back into modeling is now that geometry is all there, doubled. And if I apply, I wonder if this will actually work here. If I apply this one, nope, doesn't like it when I do that. If I apply this one and then go back to modeling, all that smoothed out, subdivided geometry is there for me to play with. So those are probably the most useful modifiers for this first assignment. Okay.